Oh, up high. Hi, I'm Marilee Rosine Beasley. I'm here today to share with you many things. And this past week would have been the birthday, 61st birthday of Israel, who did this song. It's really hard for me to listen to the song and not want to cry. He is the most famous musician in Hawaii, and maybe someday, most of you probably have heard this song. He died when he was 38. He would have been 61 this week. He he was a gentle giant. Darn. Anyway, I just wanted to share this with you, this song. I have been to Hawaii at least 4 times. Twice I went there on vacation. Twice I went there on a layover. So I wanted to share some things about Hawaii. I think it's a very special place. My most favorite place in Hawaii is called Molokai. And Molokai is an island that the residents are doing their best to keep the developers out and not have all of the high rises. This is this right here is a thing that my husband fell in love with, this print, and we bought it right here. So this is, the photography is by Julie J. Eliason, and it's Jewel, she calls it Jewel Images. And the title of this is called Power. So anyway, we brought this back, and I have this in my bedroom right now. Now, I have other things from Hawaii. I really love Molokai. Someday I'm going to return. It's just the old way it used to be, where before all of the commercial development came in. I've been to Kauai, which is wonderful. Went on some special trips. Just love Molokai. All right, so today I want to just share with you many things, and one of the things I want to emphasize is that the best thing you can probably ever do for your child is to encourage curiosity. In my opinion, my parents did that for me. So along the way, I was curious about so many things. Leonardo da Vinci was curious about a lot of things. So if you can help your children cultivate the concept of creativity and curiosity, those kinds of things, encourage them to read. If they're a reluctant reader, which one of my granddaughter was for a while, she fell in love with Rick Riordan books. So she went ahead and she just started reading Rick Riordan books. She read Percy Jackson series, which is a modern day version of the Greek myths. I researched a little more about Rick Riordan. I already knew that he was from San Antonio. At some point he was teaching school over, I believe, in San Francisco, and now he lives in Boston. I have no idea how a Texas boy went to San Francisco and now lives in Boston. Anyway, he's also written a series of books that have to do with the Egyptian myths. I have read him as an adult reader. He writes a lot of mystery books, and I fell in love with his some of those books because I was for a while reading a lot of murder mystery books. It has a lot of it's like a puzzle when you read the book. I mean, that's why one of the reasons people love to read Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, here is a book that I bought that's called Molokai. I wasn't familiar with this book until after I went on one of my trips to Hawaii, and when I got back, I found it at Half Price Books, which is one of my favorite places to look for books. Anyway, I did find it. I haven't actually finished reading it, but anyway, one of the things about Molokai that I did not know is a long time ago they had a leper colony. So they now you can go tour the leper colony. We didn't get to see it on this last trip. You can either walk down or you can walk down a lot of steps. You can, I think, rent horses, go down, or fly in a plane to go to the leper colony. My understanding is no one who has leprosy, which is now called Hansen's disease. I used to work for the Harris County Health Department, so I'm familiar with the term Hansen's disease. And now we know leprosy is not quite what they thought in biblical times. Anyway, so this is a book, Molokai, and I love this island, and I intend to return one day. So anyway, to continue on with some information, things I've been collecting for today's videos, one of the things I want to reemphasize is just that there's things all around us that you can pick up. Pine cones, I've talked about that before. Pine cones are all around, and I've taken these are samples. For people who are just now finding out about my videos. One of the things that I did this week was I picked up some bird feeders, some bird seed. I happen to live on a lake in Jersey Village. It's a very small lake, and I'm going to put these bird feeders in an area where my wonderful, sweet dog named Dallas won't be able to bark at the birds, because I've noticed that he sees these white birds on the lake behind me, and he wants to bark and run after them, and the squirrels. Of course, he never catches the squirrels. One of the things that you can do for your younger children, and this is true for older ones too, is perhaps get them a book, and they can start a journal, and they can write things that they observe. Now, I have intended, haven't done yet, I have intended to put a small camera on the lake so that I can record the movement of some of these birds that fly and know more about the birds and the ducks and whatever is on the lake. Haven't done that yet. I've been busy doing a lot of other things. Okay, so anyway, I want to continue on. One of the themes that I always like to talk about is being prepared. I did develop an emergency preparedness flyer when I ran for city council. I consider myself an expert on emergency preparedness. So one of the things about the Boy Scouts is they talk about being prepared. So as a parent, what you might do in order to encourage things about reading with your children, little kids can start to learn some of these concepts too. I did develop this flyer. I have updated it a couple of times. And what I would recommend is that you start buying some of the things or getting the things together. It has a list on the back, and just pretend that you're going to go camping for a while, and that you can start getting these things. And a few of these things, what I recommend is you maybe have an emergency bag in your car, and of course if around the Houston area, we usually have several days to prepare for hurricanes. Now, if you live in an area, I grew up in Oklahoma. A friend of mine lives in Joplin, Missouri, which is near Tulsa, where I grew up. They had a horrible, horrible tornado that came through. A lot of people were killed. Those kinds of situations, what you'd want is you'd want a few supplies in your vehicle at all times. So I went ahead and pulled a few things out of my pantry just to remind people that you always want to be somewhat prepared. Here's oatmeal, here's some flour, some rice, some baking soda, some tuna fish. Here's some Goya, a can of Goya chickpeas. Here was a can of black beans, and here's some peanuts. So what I would recommend is you keep a few things in your vehicle. Now, I happen to have a few of these. I don't drink a lot of alcohol, and this is actually could be a disinfectant. This is can help be a disinfectant. This can help with cleaning. So a lot of times there's things in your pantry that you can use for something besides what you ordinarily use. Now, if for whatever reason, sometimes people, you can brush your teeth with baking soda. It doesn't taste great, but boy, do your teeth feel clean. All right, so I want to continue on with some of these thoughts. Some of them I've talked about before. Now, the other day, I was up at Specs. I like to buy the ginger ale. I have a ginger ale that I really like. And I picked up this magazine, which I've done several times. It's called Pet Talk Houston. And there was a very fascinating article in this magazine. It has a lot of ads and it has a lot of great ideas. Anyway, in here it said large influx of wild animals, and it says it's attributed to the Stay Home Work Safe order. It says the Houston SPCA's Wildlife Center of Texas has already taken in 700 more wild animals so far this year than at this time last year, according to their executive director. Okay, so apparently, because people are at home, they've got time to slow down and look around them. There have been a lot of extra animals. And this might be something that your child would be interested in knowing about. So maybe when you walk around your neighborhood, maybe you bike around your neighborhood, whatever, you might be on the alert for some of these wild animals. I know that since I live on the lake, I personally have seen my own self hawk. I saw possums. I've seen nutria. Of course, I see the ducks. And I saw a big snake. I mean, hey, this is a lake. There's big snakes that live in the lake. Now, I don't think it was, I know the poisonous snakes, it was not poisonous. My mother taught me to respect snakes. I'm not afraid of snakes. Now, I wouldn't want one in bed with me, and I'm not real crazy about those giant roaches that like to come through the house. When I lived in Austin, Texas, one dropped in bed where we lived. I wasn't real keen on that. That's kind of creepy late at night to feel this wiggly thing. I'm not a real fan of that late at night. I'm not a fan of those little German roaches like they have. I'm not a fan of those. Now, the big roaches, I think, you know, in Florida, where my mother's from, they call them palmetto roaches. I just around here say, oh, that's a tree roach. It's looking for water. Who cares? Anyway, because I do live on the lake. All right, so to continue on, I want to mention some other things. Now, I know that sometimes it's not always easy to figure out what to feed kids. So what I recommend is thinking about kind of like you're going on a picnic. So I like blueberries, I like fresh cherries, things like that. Here's a container with peanuts. These are from the company Williamsburg in Virginia. These are they're prepared from an Old South recipe, and I really like these. I found these peanuts at Specs, and so I've been buying a few of these from time to time. So here are these peanuts. You know, you might as well just say we got a picnic here. Now, something else that I thought of the other night. I had this can of black beans. And so what I did is I also had some pico de gallo that I had bought at H-E-B. So what I did is I put those together, the black beans, the pico de gallo, and corn chips. And I had a great snack. Actually, it's kind of a meal. And, you know, I had both some protein from the beans, the corn chips were fabulous, and then there were tomatoes, onions. I could, probably stop and easily chop up and make that, but all of it together, I was using it as a snack. It could be kind of a meal. Sometimes I just do a few things where I'll eat some fruit, do something like this, have some peanuts. I like to bake apples in the oven, so I bake them. I add bake the apples. I put in cinnamon, a little bit of butter, some sugar, and orange juice or orange. And I had an orange the other day, so I just squeezed some orange in it, put it in the oven while I'm doing something else. And it is so fabulous. I took it out of the oven the other night, that baked apple, took I love Bluebell vanilla ice cream, that hot baked apples and some Bluebell ice cream, and wow, it was fabulous. So that's a quick dessert, fairly nutritious. There is some sugar. Okay, now, this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. So I have several of these glass balls. They're really from Christmas time, but this one, somebody had I had a lot of patriotic red, white, and blue. So I just want to show that this, right now we're in a weekend with, honoring Memorial Day weekend. I was in Mackinac Island, Michigan, a couple of years ago. My husband grew up in the Evanston, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, and he has friends that still live in northern Wisconsin. His mother had land up there, so we still go and see them from time to time. Anyway, we had a chance. We had 2 hours to go to the Mackinac Island, Michigan. We went by ferry, so we had 2 hours because we had to get back on to an airplane, so we didn't want to miss our plane. So we went up to the Grand Hotel, and I bought one of the cards, and this was from a company called Allport Editions, and they have a porch full of these white rockers and these flags. So to me, that captures how wonderful this Mackinac Island is, and we were up at the Grand Hotel having lunch. That island does not allow cars. It's very limited, so what you do is, I think you fly in by boat or ferry, come in by ferry, boat, or airplane. We took the ferry over, the ferry back. We went up by horse-drawn carriage up to the Grand Hotel, and the Grand Hotel, that area was part of a movie. I believe it was with Christopher Reeve. Somewhere in Time, I think was the name of the movie, was the setting, and I wasn't aware of these things until I went up there. So anyway, it was wonderful. There's a lot of horses. People can ride horses, and they really are doing their best to preserve what it was like at a certain time period on this island. So anyway, continuing on, there's always, hey, I was surprised, since I travel a lot, that I had missed that. But anyway, I just want to continue on with some other ideas. Now, I have mentioned before that I've traveled a lot. Now, this is an oyster shell. I go to New Orleans, eat oysters. I go to Destin, Florida, eat oysters in Destin, Florida. So this is probably an oyster that I brought back. I'm not sure. I don't remember where this came from. But, these are just the kind of things that I pick up at trips. Here's a little seashell. Somewhere along the line, I don't remember when I acquired this, but I just, a lot of these things are things that I've picked up or somebody's given to me. Not too many things are things that I purchased, but a few. Now, I'm not really sure. I don't remember where I got this, but this appears to be some kind of seed pod. I should, research that. Here is, now this I would have bought somewhere. It's a geode. It's one of those gorgeous geodes, just beautiful. And if you're interested in museums, the museum in Houston, Texas, our museum here has an amazing collection. I've been to the Smithsonian a few times, one of their museums, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of amazing minerals and gems that we have in Houston. Now, there's some pretty, I think they have the Hope Diamond in D.C. at the museum down by the mall. But I'll tell you, we have a dynamite exhibits here. So I encourage everybody to go to our museum. I looked up, it's going to open soon, although they apparently are going to do some things to sort of do what I call, social distancing. I don't totally understand it, because the Museum of Natural History here in Houston has very high ceilings. So anyway, I don't totally understand all of this. Now, I happen to live here, and when we bought this house, there were lots and lots of rocks. And I noticed that some of the rocks are broken. And if you look, you can see this, and here's another rock. I don't know very much about rocks. Rocks are minerals. And here's another one, and there's just all kinds of different rocks. I think I could pull out about 50 of these rocks and just, try to look some information up or get a book and find out more. I have a lot of friends who are geologists. They probably would say, oh, that's something or other, and name it right away. But anyway, those are just some things to show you. Now, I have been picking up this is from my yard. These are just for my yard. I happen to have a couple of pine trees in the back of my yard. So these are from the ground. I happen to have the tree. I didn't realize for a while that I have the tree that these come from, or is in my yard. I still don't know every tree in my yard. I have quite a few trees. So anyway, I've been experimenting with, I've been thinking about putting a little bit of gold paint on some of these, maybe turning them into some kind of ornament for a holiday tree of some sort. These are things that I did as just prototypes that I've talked about before. These are, I love to pick up pine cones. I pick them up a lot. There's pine cones, seems like they drop most of the year. So anyway, these are things, this is just off the ground. This is off the ground. These are free. I'm going to figure out something that I can do with them. All right, so I want to mention something, some other things. Okay, now, as some of you know, besides being a registered nurse, I am a certified elementary school teacher. And I'm always looking for things like this somewhere along the way. I probably saw this, I think I may have gotten this at the library where people donate things like this. So I said, oh, that looks good. So it's obvious somebody had started using it. So these are the kinds of things that I'm always kind of on the lookout. Now, some other things, some other things that I have just to share with you. My daughter lived in the New Orleans area for several years. My sister lived there. My sister moved to Alexandria, Louisiana. My dad at some point was transferred to Louisiana after I got married, and I've been to New Orleans a lot, and I bought this years ago, New Orleans furniture, and I just was curious about that. Now, the other day, I was at Ace Hardware, which is on Jones Road, Cypress Ace Hardware, and it happens to be very near here. So they had some postcards that I was intrigued with, so I bought them. And I really like this one that says, "Don't mess with Texas women." I thought that was great. Like that one. Then I said, this one is, "Did you know?" And it's about Texas, and it talks about, it says, Texas is the second largest U.S. state in both area and population, and traveling from east to west, one can observe terrain that ranges from coastal swamps and piney woods to rolling plains and rugged hills, and finally the deserts and mountains of Big Bend. Okay, and due to its long history as a center of the American cattle industry, Texas is associated with the image of the cowboy. Okay, so, and it says here, in 1845, it joined the United States. Now, some of you have heard of the Six Flags over Texas, and there were Six Flags that did happen to fly at different times over Texas, and I would challenge everybody to think about which flags. Some of them are easy to remember, some of them are like, you can go, well, maybe Spain, maybe Mexico, maybe Texas, maybe the Confederacy. Anyway, so look up the rest. Okay, so William Barrett Travis is a very famous name. And you can see the picture of the Alamo. Remember about the Alamo, there is a famous phrase, "Remember the Alamo," and that's a significant phrase. And this says, "I shall never surrender or retreat, victory or death." Okay, so please remember, this is important to Texas history. I'm not from Texas. I've lived here twice. I went to UT Austin. I got 2 degrees there. I went to Texas Women's University for my nursing degree. That's a sister school of Texas A&M, and I went to Our Lady of the Lake. And it happens that the way I look at it is the nuns were praying for a Southern Baptist girl like me. Now, I was raised as a Christian believer. I also have Jewish heritage, so I'm interested in the Jewish heritage. Now, it happens that there's been some, right now, we have our distant cousins. They're doing their best to celebrate Ramadan right now. That's if you're Muslim right now, or was. I'm not sure what the dates are exactly of Ramadan this year because they change. I lived in Indonesia as a small child. I've been to Malaysia 4 times. My husband's taught there 8 times. So it happens that if you will stop and think, the Jewish and the Christians and the people who are of the Muslim believers are all under Abraham. So we're all distant cousins, is the way I look at it. So anyway, just to continue on, here's Davy Crockett, a very, very famous name in Texas history, a very famous name. He said, according to this, you may all go to hell and I will go to Texas. Davy Crockett. And that reminds me that Annie Oakley, she's a female heroine of note. So there's other women out there. There's the Legends of the West. There's so many things that if you have children who are staying at home and you have time, that you can find out more about that. Now, I probably have told many people in videos before that my first language is English, my second language is Malay, my third language is Spanish, my fourth language may have been, I took Latin in as a junior and senior in high school. I studied French in college. I wasn't very diligent. I have studied French since then. Anyway, I'm just always interested and curious about languages. And so this was a book that I picked up one day. I believe it's a Barnes & Noble book, and it has a lot of mnemonics. So I like flipping through here and just seeing, which words I need a review about. I love this book. I think it's great because I like mnemonics, so it's got funny pictures in it to help you remember words. And mnemonics are a very useful tool in education. So anyway, this is a great book. Now, continuing on, I have mentioned before that these are the kind of books that I get at Dollar Tree. Now, if you have a young child that's not much, they don't read much, this book to me, the pictures are fabulous, the descriptions are fabulous, and there's just amazing animals, sea life, space. There's one about bugs, reptiles. I mean, to me, this is great. When you have a reader that's not that great at reading, you can always, maybe you can record if you have some way to record reading, and then they can sit down later, open up the book, and they can listen to you read, or somebody else. Maybe there's an older sibling. Now, something that I'm going to pursue a little bit more, I don't know where I got this book. This has handcrafted ornaments, and I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to probably do these because I like to explore ideas of either free or almost free, and I've got a lot of scraps around the house from the years of making things and sewing. It shows you how to make some kind of a rose that you can do, and I just think this is beautiful. There's just all kinds of ideas of things that, that are very inexpensive. You just, and this shows how to cut these amazing little things that you can use at Christmas, holiday time, and it tells a little bit more about it. So this is something I'm going to pursue later, I think. Okay, now I just want to share with you some inspirational books. This book right here, One Step at a Time. It's Josh Blill, I believe, it's his story. Ironically, I heard him a few months ago. I was born in Indiana because my parents were going to Purdue University. They were working on their PhDs. I didn't realize that he, I believe, is from Indiana and was at Purdue. Anyway, I believe his wife is a third grade teacher, and he was it was his story about it says, sometimes bad things happen, but the fight inside pushes us through them. So I got his book. I didn't stay that night. I asked, and it's been signed by him. I had hip surgery in November, and I'm working to get through the situation. It'll take me about 1 year to fully recover, as long as I do my exercises. So anyway, right now I'm considered handicapped. I have a placard. So anyway, he was just so inspiring, funny, And anyway, I just love listening to Josh Beal. Some of you know that I heard Larry Swikert. He talked about Reagan several months ago. My videographer, Mario, got permission from Larry to videotape his talk that day, and he talked about Reagan. He's written this amazing book. So that is on my website. Now, these are some other DVDs that I've bought and CDs, anyway, some of these I think I may have even gotten at Dollar Tree, but most of them I got at Barnes and Noble. I just went through one night and I said I wanted to watch this because this is a classic. I got Good Will Hunting. I got Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson story. I've heard him a couple of times speak. He was at a conference. My church, Second Baptist, a reformer church that I used to be very involved with, did a conference about If My People, and he was one of the speakers, and he was amazing. And that was several years ago. It was in January. I got this about Vincent, about Van Gogh. I really, really like the Impressionists. If I had to say that I have a favorite area, it would be the Impressionists. But anyway, so I got this at, I believe this was Barnes and Noble. Now, many months ago, I took a friend, we went to the Bayou Bend Collection and Gardens. That's part of the Museum of Fine Arts. And this was a book that I took home. And I happen to belong to the Imahog Ceramic Circle. Now, I love porcelain. I didn't even know there was such a group, but somebody invited me to that group, and it was like I went into a room and there was a group of friends I did not know that I even had this thing in common with. So I just want to share with you some things that I have collected that are related to things that have to do with the Imahog Ceramic Circle. I have traveled some in Asia, and this is one of the things, a lot of my friends know that I love white with blue. Love, love. And I brought them probably back from one of my trips to Malaysia. You can buy them all over, Kuala Lumpur. This is the kind of thing you can probably buy. It's not expensive. It's just that I love white with blue, and I have a lot. This is a piece that I bought. It's not old. These are not old. This is actually Spode, and Spode took a lot of, Spode is a British company. They took a lot of things from the Chinese, and so anyway, that's why. Okay, now here is a bowl that I've had for a while, and it says made in China, and I love what's inside. I love these little things on the side. I love the patterns, and I just think this is a beautiful little bowl. This bowl, since I think I only have one, I kind of use it more for a decoration. A lot of times I have things that I want to make sure that I use for more than one thing. I don't like it to just be just a decoration. I like for things to be something else. Okay, now I want to share with you something else that I've been thinking about. When I went to Ace Hardware the other day, they have beekeeping supplies. And I went, wow. Now, I'm not sure that I'm quite ready to keep bees, but they have it. Now, they had an education teaching sheet, which I will make sure it will be on the internet, but they have a list of flowers that are good if you are interested in helping bees. And it turns out these zinnias are on the list. And this was one of my mother's favorite flowers in her garden. So I'm going to plant some of these. They also listed marigolds, and I talked to a lady yesterday. She mentioned a flower called Cosmos. So I'm going to find out more about Cosmos. She said that it has a long growing season, so it's great for bees. So I'm going to find out more about Cosmos. And so there will be a list of different plants. Milkweed was one. Milkweed is also a plant that attracts monarch butterflies. So I'm going to see what I can do to find out about milkweed. Now, I want to just mention some other things before we go. I do just like to collect lots of things. I've mentioned some of this before. My daughter lived in Greece for a year. I went to visit her. So this is probably something that I brought back from that trip. See, the thing is pottery is something that all cultures did. The American Indians created pottery. You create it out of clay, then you use it for other things, and they decorated it. Now, this looks to me, and I do not have any idea how I acquired it, where it came from. Maybe my mother had it, I don't know. It looks to me like it's sort of something that might be American Indian maybe, or maybe it's from Mexico, I don't know, because we did travel to there when, I was younger. My family traveled a lot. Okay, so I want to also mention, so here is more bird seed to go along with my bird feeders. And apparently you can get different things that attract different kinds of birds, so I'm going to find out more about that. Now, this right here is, these items right here happen to be, these were at Specs, and what they do is these are boxes that cigars came in. They charge $1.49 for wooden boxes, and they charge a quarter or 50 cents for ones that are cardboard. So that's what I believe I paid for this. Now, these I buy these, and I have a friend that likes to take items and turn them into something else. This is a wooden box, and this is something, can be something else. You could put something inside to line this, or you could stain it something darker. You could take, all the labels off. There's different things you could do. I happen to like the color red a lot, so I got this, and I just thought, wow, I'm not sure that I would even do anything with this, because I just think just the colors are amazing. Now, something else I want to mention that I like to do is I like to take other things and turn them into sort of, I guess you would say, kind of art things. And after my parents died, my mother saved Christmas cards, and I went through, and I'm not sure if this is one of those Christmas cards, but it says that this is a detail from the day before Christmas by Edward Willis Redfield, Philadelphia Museum of Art, given by the Art Club of Philadelphia. And I just loved the way that looked. It was so quiet and serene, so I have put that out in one of my bookcases. Now, another thing I found, and I love blues. I love pinks and blues and reds, I guess, maybe all the colors. I found this, and I probably cut this off, and this is a Currier and Ives Christmas scene, and so I have this. I've had this in one of my bookshelves. Now, another amazing card that I found in this collection for my mother is this one, or my parents. It says Season's Greetings. This is I believe this is Claude Monet. You can see the name right there. And it was turned into a holiday card, and I just fell in love with it. So that's another one I have in that bookshelf. So I just like to look at other things and turn them into something else. And so these are just some things, suggestions of things that, see, this is free, and I already had this. So these are just some ideas. But anyway, these are just some things to get started. And I thank you for joining me, and have a blessed week.